G-R-E-E-D and F-E-A-R. So you just run it by. Whenever you're talking about money or whenever you make a money decision, ask yourself, what is my motivation here? Is it, am I deciding what I'm about to decide about my money? Am I deciding based on fear? Am I deciding it based on greed? And just be honest with yourself, because if it's greed or fear, which of those come from God? God is not the author of fear. And God is not the author of greed. So when it comes to our money, do we believe that God is our source? Or do we see money? Oh, how am I going to make it this week? How am I going to make ends meet? Now, is that God or is that money is my source? Who's my source?
Okay, come on now.
All right, let's try these ideas. Luke 12:34. The idea of affection. Jesus put it this way. Jesus said, where your treasure is, there will your heart. In other words, affection. Wherever your affection is, that's where your treasure is. Because wherever your treasure, Jesus said your heart's going to be there. In other words, you can be sitting at home in your living room watching television. Or sitting at the dinner table talking to your family. Sitting there, physically talking to them. But if your treasure is across town, you might be sitting in the house. Matter of fact, you may be laying in bed. But if your treasure is somewhere else, that's where your heart is too. Matter of fact, you can be sitting here, and I'm glad you're here, family and friends there. You can be sitting in Celestial Haven right now. But if you're here at Celestial Haven, your body is here. But if your treasure is somewhere else, your body is here. But your mind and your thoughts are wherever your treasure. It's the principle of affection. So where do we put our money? Where our affections are. The idea of affection. Then there's the idea when it comes to money. There is the idea, and as I run through these ideas, and I just noticed, Jesus talked more about money than Jesus did about prayer. There is more in the scripture, in the Gospels, there's more in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John about money than there is about prayer. Principle of affection. Then there's the principle of, let's do the idea. The idea, because I don't want these as principles, ideas. The idea of revival. The idea of revival. Luke 19. Luke 19, you know the text, verses 1 through 10. It's where we read about Zacchaeus. And you know what the text says. It says that Jesus is walking through, and then Zacchaeus is up a sycamore tree. And people sort of spew that all the time. People say, he was short, he was short, and he knew there was a crowd around you, so he wanted to climb up a tree. Zacchaeus didn't climb up a tree. It had nothing to do with his height. You know why Zacchaeus was in that tree? Because he had been cheating his own people. He was a tax collector working on behalf of the occupying Roman government. In other words, he was, if you will, in Uncle Tom, he was a sellout, and his folk caught up with him. And when they caught up with him, he was up a tree. So when you've been acting one way and fronting and faking and folk catch up with you, it don't matter how tall or short you are, when you get caught up with, you up a tree. And that's where Zacchaeus, he was up a tree. And Zacchaeus is here up a tree. Jesus comes by, looks up, sees him where he is in the predicament he's in, and says, yo, Zacchaeus, this brother that did not want to be seen because he was up a tree. Jesus said, yo, brother, come down. I'm not sending the gospel up a sycamore tree. Come down. And then notice what Jesus said. Come down And when Zacchaeus came down, look at what the first thing Jesus said to him. This day, I'm going to abide in your house. All right. In other words, if you meet God, this is family and friends, you can meet God here at Celestial Haven. You might meet God here. But God is not going to stay at Celestial Haven. Right. If you really meet God, God is going to your house. God is going to your house and to your everyday situation. That's why you just ought not have all of your religion and all of your spirituality in your church. It's bad if you so holy and so upright and folk in the church think you the best person in the world, and folk at home you mistreating them and not acting right. Your religion ain't worth a dime. If all of your giving and all your charitable work and everybody you helping, the folk at the church can't open the church door without you being there. But you not treating folk at home right, you just wasting your time. If you meet God, God is not going to stay at your church, in your office, on your auxiliary, on your board. God is going to your house. And then look at what Zacchaeus said. I think this is the idea of revival. Look at what Zacchaeus said. When Jesus got to his house, because that's where God is going. If you know God, God is going to your house. Now look at what happens. Look at what happens. When he gets to his house, Zacchaeus said, you check it. Luke 19. Zacchaeus said, God? Jesus? He said, if I have wronged anybody, I will repay them fourfold. In other words, Zacchaeus said, I'm going to take 50% of all the money I've earned off, which mostly he had stolen, but he said, all the money I have, I'm going to take 50% of every dime I get, everything I get. I'm going to take 50% and I'm going to give it to you. Whew. Think about that now. Somebody join your church. Or somebody's here for family and friends. They're not a member, but somebody, family and friends. And they say, I'm going to start giving the church 50% of my income. Well, you better keep them away from the wrong members. Because listen to what church folk would say. Oh, no, that's too much. You don't know. No, you don't have to give that much. Nobody else is giving that much. The officers don't give that much. None of us give. Don't give that much. But that's not what Jesus said. Check the text. When he said, I'm going to give 50%, look at what Jesus said. Jesus said, this proves that salvation has come to your house. In other words, salvation has come to your house and it's evident by the decision you now making with money. Because no longer are you letting fear or greed, but you're letting God be your source. This shows you want revival. Isn't it interesting that maybe the greatest opportunity for revival is when the offering plate comes around? Because Jesus said, this shows. He didn't say anything about what you've been praying or what you've been witnessing or how you've been talking. Jesus said, when he said, I would give 50%, Jesus said, this shows. Specifically, no matter. This shows that salvation has come to your house. Now, let's be honest. Maybe this is not true for Celestial Haven, but I really believe it's true for every church. I think it's true for every church that exists. 3 folk in every church. 3 folk. 3 group of people in every church. Parents, parasites, and partners. All right. Parents are folk that just take it all in, but they don't contribute anything. Parasites are those that they come regularly and just soak everything up. Everything you put out. Oh, they're just soaking it all up. But they're not giving anything. And then there are parasites, there are partners. Partners are those folk like Zacchaeus. Partners are the folk that say, hey, God's been so good to me.
Yes.
And this ministry has blessed me so much. I'm not going to give a dime out of every dollar. I'm going to be a partner. And the dime out of every dollar is not my goal. That's my base. I'm going to give whatever it takes. Because I'm a partner in this thing. And I want this to work. I want it to grow. I want it to. The idea of affection, the idea of revival. And then Luke 12:31. If you seek first the kingdom and God's righteousness, then all these other things will be added. The idea of sacrifice. The idea of sacrifice. Any of you, and don't raise your hand, don't answer me, but just consider the question. Any of you ever sacrificed for the kingdom? Any of you ever sacrificed for your church? I mean sacrifice. I don't just mean something off the top or something you got laying aside. Any of you ever, but this is going to be outlandish, but this is the idea of sacrifice. I told you it's just ideas you talk about. Any of you ever take your credit card and max it out? Take all the cash on it and give that money to the kingdom? And then you pay the monthly notes on it? Anybody ever do that? Now here's why I'm asking you that, because I already know the answer. Maybe you haven't done it for the church, but you did it for that car. When you wanted that new car that you couldn't quite afford, you sacrificed. Some folk are living in homes that might be a bit beyond what you should have paid for a house, beyond the mortgage you should have gotten, but you wanted it and you sacrificed. Anybody got a child in here? If you got a child, I know you sacrificed. Because anything we care about, we made a sacrifice for. We sacrifice, we give. Here's why that idea of sacrifice is so important. Jesus said, if you seek first, Luke 12:31, if you seek first the kingdom, Jesus said all other things shall be added to you. Now here's why it's important to sacrifice. If you want it, and you got enough self-effort, and enough self-confidence, and enough gumption, and persistence, and pertinacity about yourself, anything you want, anything, you can go out and get it, can't you? You work hard enough and you struggle, you can get it. Sure you can. But here's why the principle and the idea that Jesus talked about is so important. Jesus said if you seek first the kingdom and all these other things, look at what Jesus said now. Jesus said, they'll be added. In other words, if you want it bad enough and you go out and get it, you might get it. But here's the problem. After you get it, you won't be able to enjoy it. You got a relationship you work hard, you can get that relationship. You got something you want, some commodity, some product you want. You work hard enough, you can get it. You got a profession you want, a vocation you want, you can get it. The difference is this. When you let God add, when God adds, God gives the capacity to enjoy. You see, when God, whatever it is you want, if you wait and let God add it to your life, instead of going out getting it for yourself, when God adds, whatever God adds, God gives the capacity to enjoy. You go out and get it yourself, you might get it. You might never get over the regret. That's right. God gives the capacity to enjoy. Then there's the idea, this text by Paul, this Pauline text, 2 Corinthians 9 speaks directly to it. The idea of the crop. The idea of the crop. And Paul, listen at the language Paul uses. Paul just talks about a crop. He says, if you sow sparingly, you're gonna reap sparingly. In other words, you sow sparingly, don't look for a big crop. And then he says, if you want a large crop, well, you do something about that. You gotta sow a large seed. You want a small crop. So, because however you sow, you're gonna reap. Whatever you sow. In other words, it's the principle of the crop.
That's right.
And then look at what he says. Verse 8. Chapter 9, verse 8, he says, God is able. Now remember, research shows the two main motivators, the two main factors, variables in money is fear and greed. If we see money as our source, then fear and greed are operative. But if we see God as our source, then look at what verse 8 says. God is able to make all grace abound toward you. Keep looking. So that you always may have all sufficiency in all things. In other words, God is able to bless and enhance and enrich every area of your life. Not just your spirituality, but every area of your life. So the idea of affection, the idea of revival, the idea of sacrifice, the idea of the crop. Then there's the idea of proving your love. Proving your love. Verse 13 here. Proving your love. Anybody here ever been in love? Got anything, anybody you love? Well, sometimes you recognize that love is not just a matter of emotional endearment or of cognitive reflection. Love is not just a matter of staring in the eyes and, oh, how much I love you. Oh, can't do without you. You recognize that love, as Pierre Teilhard de Chardin says, love is not looking one another in the eye, but love is looking in the same direction. And when you truly love, you know what you do? You prove your love. And how do you prove it? Not by saying I love you, but every now and then you're going to give something. And you're going to give something extravagant. What do you do when you give? Folk you love, you don't just give when they need it. And you don't give based on their need. They might not need it at all. But you just want to prove your love every now and then. You just want to show them how much I think about you. And notice this, even when you're buying it, you aren't out thinking about how much it costs or how much you've given or they don't really need this. But even when you're buying it, you're thinking to yourself how they're going to feel when they open it. What they're going to think when they see it. And you'll get happy just thinking about what it's going to make them feel. In other words, when you really give out of love, who's the real recipient? It's not the one that's receiving it. It's the one that's giving it because you're excited the whole way through. Yeah. When you love, you don't ask how much they need. You don't ask what they need it for. When you love, you just want to give. And even as you give, you're just wishing you had more to give. Yeah. Because when you love, every now and then, you just want to prove your love. Then there's the principle. Look at one other idea. The principle or the idea of telling the gospel story. Telling the gospel story. Look at 1 Corinthians 16. 1 Corinthians 16, verse 1. And so good to see all of these absolutely beautiful and wonderful and remarkable and erudite educators with us today. Amen. Because these educators can tell you how important punctuation is and how important grammar is. That's what made Dr. Campbell such a tremendous preacher. Notice what chapter 16, verse 1. 1 Corinthians 16, verse 1 says, now concerning the offering. Now concerning the offering. And you educators that, unless you say, it's the Bible and just let it pass, you'll sort of get the little twinge because you're saying, why would somebody start a paragraph with the word now? Certainly, why would you start a sentence with the word now? Why would you start a chapter with the word now? Because now is a word. Now is a word that means what comes after now is dependent on what comes before now.
That's right.
So the text says 16:1 now, and then after now says concerning the offering. I'm going to talk to you about the offering, about giving.
All right.
Well, that means that what comes after now, the offering, is dependent on what comes before now. Now look at how brilliant and how intellectual Paul is. He writes now as the first word. Had he wrote now, had he put now in verse 2, then before now would be verse 1. Had he put now in chapter 15, verse 58, then before now would be verse 57. By putting now at chapter 16, verse 1, that means what comes before now is the whole chapter.
All right.
In other words, all of 15 comes before verse 1. So, in other words, concerning the offering is dependent upon everything in chapter 15.
Yeah.
Got it.
Well, what is chapter 15 about? Verses 1 through 23 of chapter 15 is about the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Verses 23 through 24 through 57 is about our transformed bodies. That God raised Jesus, and just as God raised Jesus,